The Department of English, Allahabad University, has a rich tradition of producing creative writers. We never forget to tell people that Virat Gorakhpuri, Harbansh Rai Bachchan were members of our staff. This tradition hasn't died down. In fact, it is thriving, it is alive. As a matter of fact, even today, almost 10 members of the staff are creative writers, novelists, and poets, and several of them nationally and internationally acclaimed. With the debut novel, The Tailor's Needle, Lakshmi Raj Sharma has joined this group. The Tailor's Needle is a well-crafted, carefully balanced, and elegant novel. But that is not a surprise. That is what you would expect when the author happens to be a professor of English. What Lakshmi has done is, he has taken us to a time which was very, very different from what we experience today, and it's a world that he has drawn. I don't want to go into the technicalities now, but what I would like to do is share my own response to the novel as a story. The love of listening to stories is inherent in human beings. We love listening to stories, and we recall the time when we were young and how we enjoyed it when our parents or our grandparents told us stories. With age, that love for listening to stories translates into reading stories. And we get intimately involved with the worlds and the characters that fiction creates for us. However, the degree of our involvement is directly dependent upon how a story is told, how it is related. And this is where the novelist comes in. Because the novelist is a professional storyteller. He creates worlds and he draws us in, and our attention gets riveted. And this is what Lakshmi Raj Sharma has done with his novel. Created a time so different from the frenzied pace of today. A time when people could lead a leisurely life. A time different both in texture and in quality. The novel itself is set at a time when the presence of the British in India was still smug. There was an incipient freedom movement, but it was manifested as an occasional rumble in the background. In fact, the freedom movement is a kind of a backdrop to the novel. The novel is many things at the same time. It is a novel of manners and modes. It's a socio-historical novel. It's a love story. It's a novel with elements of suspense and mystery in it. It's a novel that provides us with personal and private opinions that the Britishers and the Indians had about each other, and how these were completely camouflaged at the time when they actually interacted with each other. It's also the portrayal of a period. It's the portrayal of a community, and most of all, it's the portrayal of a family, a particular family, headed by a wise and benign patriarch. The family has an interesting mix. There is a rebellious daughter, Menaka, on the one hand, and a very obedient daughter, Sita, on the other. There is a son, Yogendra, conscious of the image of his family, and somewhat weighed down by the fact that he has fallen in love with a girl from another community, very aware of the furor that can be created if he does go ahead and get married to this girl, very aware of what a negative impact that will have on the impeccable image of his family. There is a wife, Savitri, very traditional, completely committed, completely devoted to her husband. But at the end of the novel, somebody who surprises us, because as expected, she doesn't oppose her son, but she in fact supports his choice of getting married to a girl outside the community. And each of the names, Menika, Sita, Savitri, are resonant of the kind of natures that these characters have. The novel also outlines the growth and the development of the three Ranbakshi children, children who have been brought up by English governesses, children who are the privileged others, very aware of the distinct position that their family has. So a part of society as well as different from it. But the overarching presence in the novel is that of Saraswati Ranbakshi, a character very finely and lovingly crafted by the writer. Here is a man who has been educated abroad, an admirer of the Britishers in many ways, an Anglophile of sorts, but at the same time very rooted in his cultural values. And the novel is, as Henry James would say, a slice of his life, from the point when he decides to leave the princely state of Kashinagar to the point, much later in the novel, when he decides his wife falls sick and passes away, and he decides to devote himself to the freedom struggle, which has in the meantime concretized. Just a word about the British presence in the novel. Very well rendered characters, whether it is the English governess, Mrs. Muddleton, or it's the district magistrate, Larry Stephens, or whether it's the Viceroy. I particularly enjoyed the portrait of the Viceroy. And what is again very interesting and amusing is the insights and the interactions between these two, which are both insightful and funny. So in short, it's a novel well worth the read. At the end of it, one comes away with a feeling of satisfaction at the way Lakshmi Raj Sharma has rendered with authenticity not just the period, but the characters and the story as well. Thank you.